Someone asks you for a favor. Deep down, you don't want to do it. You're tired. You have your own things to handle. But before you even realize it, the word yes is already coming out of your mouth. And then you spend the rest of the day resenting yourself. Sound familiar? If you've ever felt trapped by your own yes, if saying no feels physically uncomfortable, if you cancel your own needs just to avoid disappointing someone else, this video is going to explain exactly why. Because this isn't a character flaw, this is psychology. We call them nice people, the ones who always show up, always help, always agree. But psychology has a different name for this pattern: people-pleasing. And what most people don't realize is that this behavior isn't about being kind. It's about fear, pure and simple. Today, we're going to break down the psychological root of why some people literally cannot say no, what happens in their mind, where it comes from, and most importantly, what it costs them. You've probably heard of fight or flight, the two survival responses our nervous system uses when we feel threatened. But there's a third response that doesn't get talked about nearly enough: fawn. The fawn response is when a person tries to neutralize a threat by pleasing it. Instead of fighting back or running away, they become agreeable, helpful, accommodating. They say yes to avoid conflict. They shrink themselves to make others comfortable. This was first described by therapist Pete Walker, who studied complex trauma survivors. He found that many people, especially those who grew up in unpredictable or emotionally unsafe homes, learned that the safest way to exist was to become what others needed them to be. As a child, saying no might have meant anger, punishment, rejection, abandonment. So the brain learned compliance is safety. And now, as adults, that old survival strategy is still running, even when the threat is just someone asking them to take on extra work. At the core of every chronic people-pleaser is a deep, often unconscious fear. The fear of rejection, the fear that if they say no, people will leave, that they'll be seen as selfish, lazy, or difficult, that their value is conditional, that people only love them because of what they do for others. Psychologists call this anxious attachment, a style of relating to others where love feels fragile and must be constantly earned. People with this pattern often grew up around love that came with conditions. I'll be proud of you if, I'll love you when, and so they internalized a belief. I am only worthy when I am useful. Every yes becomes a way to buy safety. Every no feels like a risk they can't afford. Here's what nobody tells people pleasers. Saying yes to everyone else means saying no to yourself every single time. Research in psychology consistently shows that people who suppress their own needs to please others experience higher rates of anxiety, burnout, and depression. They also experience something called resentment creep, a slow, quiet buildup of anger toward the very people they keep saying yes to. Because deep down, they don't feel like they have a choice. And when you feel forced into kindness, kindness starts to feel like a prison. There's also a painful irony here. People pleasers often attract the very people who will take advantage of them. Because they signal through their behavior, I will not enforce limits, I will not push back, and certain people, consciously or not, respond to that signal. Now, and this is important, this doesn't mean people pleasers are weak. In fact, many of them are incredibly strong. They learn to survive difficult environments by being sensitive, adaptive, and emotionally intelligent. The problem isn't the person. The problem is that an old strategy has outlived its purpose. So how do you start to change it? Step 1 is awareness. Recognizing that I can't say no isn't the truth. It's a fear response. The first no is the hardest, but every time you say it and survive, your nervous system learns, I am safe even when I disappoint someone. Step 2 is tolerating discomfort. People pleasers often mistake guilt for wrongdoing. But guilt after saying no, when you've done nothing harmful, is just the nervous system adjusting. It will pass. Step 3 is working with a therapist or counselor, particularly one trained in attachment or trauma-focused approaches. Because if this pattern runs deep, unlearning it takes more than willpower. It takes rewiring. People who can't say no aren't broken. They're people who learned, very early, that saying yes was the price of love. But love that requires you to erase yourself isn't love, it's a transaction. And you deserve relationships where your no is respected just as much as your yes. If this video made you think of someone, or yourself, Share it with them. And if you want to go deeper into the psychology of relationships, behavior, and the mind, subscribe. We post every week. I'll see you in the next one.